Alright, welcome to my new workbench. I just picked this up. I actually had it dropped off a couple days ago from Bob's Furniture. I had to replace the handle on here because the hardware was missing. The drawer still isn't really on right. I gotta get some wood glue for that yet. But today's project is we're gonna set up our USB interface, Loksound Programmer, a DC transformer, all to this test track. At least that's the plan. So the goal is to take this here piece of plexiglass, mount two switches on it so that we can have one to go between our two different Lok and NCE programmers, and then this one will go between DC power and the DCC programming selections. So between two switches, we'll have three different ways that we can use this test track. So this should be real easy, real fun, real nice, and be able to do all kinds of things with this test track now without having to jerry-rig something over here. I've got my Loksound Programmer Velcro stuck to the back here. I'll have the NCE plug in here. Otherwise I might mount it within this yet on top, which is another option. But for the moment, the big thing is mounting the switches in here. So first I have to locate how everything is going to go in here, and then I'm going to have to drill some holes. So let's get started on that. Alright, so if I actually put in the whole video, it takes about a little over 2 minutes for me to make this, and that's testing everything, fitting everything, accidentally cracking it because I was an idiot and I thought I could use a smaller drill and then hone it out, and that didn't work. I ended up having to go to Ace Hardware, buy the correct drill, and then doing that, it was a huge pain, and I cracked the glass. So not the biggest deal, I'm not going to worry about it. But it's just one of those things, you try not to do that when you try to avoid it. You know, shortcuts don't work. So what I'm going to do is test fit everything on here one more time, put it all on here, put all the switches and whatnot on here. I want to make sure everything fits. And then if I decide to, do this a little bit nicer, I can paint it. I can put a cover on it. What I would like to do eventually is get this part of this wrapped, and then labeled for the different switches and everything. So I'm going to test fit everything, put it on here, and then we'll get to wiring it. Alright, so learn my lesson. This is supposed to be a 1/2 inch hole, not a 7/16, unless you want to make it threaded and put a lot of work into it. But I'm very happy with the way this has turned out, the way it looks. There's room for an engine underneath there. I can always kind of adjust that too if I need to. And again, this is just the first time I've made one. I could actually invert the plastic or the plexiglass here, make it a little bit taller if that suits my needs. The next thing I'm going to do is wire up these switches, and then I'm going to take this, and this is going to get mounted underneath here, which means I'm going to need to make little spacers so that this bottom side here isn't rubbing on here. So I'll make a little spacer, and this will mount underneath yet, so that way I have less stuff on top of my table here, and everything's underneath. So now I get to take these out. I'm not taking this whole thing apart. Actually I have to because those are twisted in. But I'm going to take this apart again, take those out, and we're going to start wiring. So the big thing we want to do when we're wiring this, and I'm no electrician, so this is probably not the best wiring diagram. But what we're trying to do is we have our Loksound Programmer. Okay, and we have our NCE Interface. Okay, now that's going to go And to those two I want to be able to toggle between here. I want to toggle between those and a DC power pack. Okay, so I've got a switch here that's going to go between these two, and this is going to be my DCC side, and this will be my DC power. So this one will control whether it's Loksound or NCE, and this one will control whether it's coming from this switch for DCC or this side for straight DC power. So I can program with either system, or I can just run it with a power pack, any way I like. And I can still hook up my throttle here, my power cab. I've got my SB5 smart booster over there, so I'll have my flat cord plugged in at all times. And I just bring the throttle over here. I can program with that. I can program with JMRI. I can program with my Loksound Programmer. It's going to be a beautiful thing. So either one of these. Oh, that's not the one I actually needed. So that's what happens when you order stuff from a store and the guy doesn't necessarily know what you're asking for. They both say double pull, double throw, and they are, but the only difference is one is a O-ring toggle switch and the other one's just a regular toggle switch. But the difference is this a on off on and this is an on on, and I need two on off ons. So what I'll probably do is just return these and then go to AutoZone and pick up just a couple of on off on toggle switches, because this is getting to be just a little annoying. So when you guys do yours, please listen to anything I tell you here, any advice, because this is going to save you a little trip. But yeah, so make sure you get two on off on switches so it has a nice center. I suppose actually, as long as I put this guy over here and made this one for the DCC so you don't mix them up, I could have that over here, so that'll save me a trip. I think I'll do that. I'll switch those guys around, because you want to make sure when you're going between DCC systems that you're not interrupting or you're not having two at the same time. You could really screw things up. So if I put this switch over here, which is on, off, on, if I make that my DCC switch, I can put that in the middle, and that's going to kill everything to the track. So when I put this thing on DC, it's not going to have anything going to it. So I'm going to do that. That'll save me a trip. But I highly recommend doing the on, off, on switches with a double pull, double throw. So with that said, let's get these wired up. So now we got to take this apart, and I'll be right back for the wiring job. Alright, so with another stop at Ace Hardware and a stop at Culver's, because it's lunchtime for me, I picked up some more stuff. So I picked up the actual correct size drill bit, which is a 1/2 inch, to drill the holes for those guys. Just added that to my collection. Now, the next thing I need to do is add jumpers to all of these. So this will be going to the test track itself. So I need to make sure I need to have these connectors on it. But for these connectors, I'll be using a female spade, and what's nice about this is I'll be able to slide right on and off as I need it. So what I'm going to do is attach these and figure out the lengths of wire I'll actually need, and get everything set up, and we'll get our glass back together here and have everything ready to go, and then we'll be able to test it. Alright, so this is my test track. I've got this so I can set it up to my Loksound Programmer, my NCE system, through my NCE to computer interface, and I can program or test run model trains on this test track with my NCE cab, JMRI, my Loksound Programmer, or a standard DC throttle. So on this side I have a double pull, double throw switch that's on, off, on. And this will select between Loksound or my NCE interface or my NCE system, and this will go between DCC and DC. They're both double pull, double throw, but one is on, off, on, where centered is off, so there's nothing coming from this, and the other is on and on. So what I'll do is, if I'm not using DCC or DC, I'll have this in the centered position. Now, the reason you want to have an on, off, on for a DCC, especially going back and forth between, is you want to interrupt that signal before you put anything else on another track. So I'll eventually get labels up here that say DCC and then Loc and NCE, and over here I'll have DCC and DC. I'll get little decals or something printed and put them on here to tidy this up. Now, this has been kind of a challenge. It was great fun, but it has been a challenge. So the big thing is, when you're doing this, go slow. Don't drill fast. Make sure you have the right drill bit. This is 1/2 inch. These I just drilled. I just got lucky. I just chose a countersunk tapered drill that worked out perfect. I just made sure that the drill was slightly smaller than the threads of the screws, and it worked perfect. And the screws are almost flush. In fact, I could probably put these in a little bit more. I used 1/8 inch plexiglass, which gave me the strength and rigidity to be able to sit there and screw stuff to it, and it's very stable. And this is a good deals DCC incorporated test track. You can get this for N and HO. I would eventually like to get an N and HO scale one, and I'll probably do the. I would probably just take this and put that on there. But for programming at home or at a show, or just showcasing your stuff, or just doing what I do, just have it on your desktop. This is very nice. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But now we're going to get back to the wiring. So back here, you've got your double pull, double throw on and on. So this is going from here, which is selecting either your Loc Programmer or your NCE system / NCE interface. And then the center here, when you have this off, nothing's going through, but when you select it this way, you're taking the NCE system. When you select it this way, you're taking the Loc Programmer, and it's taking it from this side or this side and going through the middle. So I have jumpers here going over to this switch. So this would be going to my DCC system, whichever I have selected over here. And then over here would be to my DC power pack, which is actually underneath my desk. And this is, I'm hoping this works very good. I'm going to test it out here in a minute and program and run my first engine. But this is a very simple setup. There's a little bit of thought involved to get it right. But it is relatively simple. Affordable. I think the switches were $8 a piece. The wiring I had on hand. I bought the female connectors. I already had these. That was $4. The plexiglass was $2 at my local Ace Hardware. The NCE system I had, otherwise that's $150 to $180. The NCE interface is a $60 product, I believe. You don't have to have this. You can program with your NCE throttle, but I plan on using JMRI eventually, so that's why I wanted to get this. So this will plug into here, this will plug into my computer, and I'll be able to do more programming. And hopefully I can program some stuff for my proto throttle, so I don't have to put Loc decoders and everything. That's the whole idea behind this. And then in my Loc Programmer, I forget how much that was. So all in all, you know, I bought this stuff over time. I've had the interface in the Loc Programmer. I've had the NCE system. I've had my SB5, which is powering the layout now. I basically spent, I think, between the drill bit, which I ended up buying the 1/2 inch and not just the 7/16. When I went back to get these female connectors, I bought a 1/2 inch drill bit, which is the proper size. I want to say I spent $25. Maybe $30 with lunch, so not too bad, I didn't think. So we're gonna plug these guys in here. So moving forward, then I want to mark what those switches mean right now. So I'm gonna put this on paper so I can look at it and at a glance and know exactly without guessing. Another thing is, always keep your tabletop or workbench clear as much as you can, even if it means picking up the little stuff, whatever it means. If you have your locomotive sitting on your workbench and there's metal dust or particles or whatever, you can really do some damage. So we've got our two switches, and then to the right is DC, to the left is DCC. And I can look underneath from behind here and see that the left side has the NCE interface, and the right side is loc. So we'll put that over here so we can look at it and know until it's labeled. I just don't want to accidentally fry an engine, which could happen. But we're going to try a DC engine first. It's the lowest risk, it's the easiest. So we've got this switch centered, which means we've got no power from DCC from either one. Okay? And we have this switched over to DC right here. Some more trash. So we've got my transformer here. We're going to put this guy on. I've got nothing. So now we start troubleshooting. So we'll clear some more of the stuff out of the way here. And we'll take a look. So we've got our DC power wires here going into this side of the switch. What it could be is that the switch is actually reversed compared to what we're seeing. So before we get too far, let's check that real quick. So something's happening to the system as it's set up, because when I power this up now, there's nothing. So there's something wrong in the circuit. So I'm going to shut this off, unplug it so to make sure we don't do any more damage than we maybe already have. And that's why we want to have that off switch on here. So now I have to figure out why this isn't working. So before, again, we'll unplug anything else that may be unnecessary. And then make sure that's in the off position. If the DC system's unplugged, let's try it again. I wonder if that side of my transformer just went out. It works in one direction, but not in the other. Interesting. So, without plugging anything back in, let's try this. See, now I know something has to be goofed up, because this worked the last time I tried using it on here and actually tested this very engine. So the next thing I'm going to do, assuming that this is part of the issue, making sure I have everything safely unhooked, is we're going to transfer the track power on this transformer to the other throttle here. And try this side. So we've got all our wires, everything looks good. So let's turn this on. Oh, let's plug it in first. Turn this on. Track power that way. Power on that way. Put this back on the track. turn that off. Flip this. There we go. So the switch was reversed. So it is not. It is DC. And we'll have to try the Loksound versus the NCE out to see if that one's different. Because they are two different, they're the same brand, but they're technically two different switches. One's on, off, on, the other one's on, on. So they could be set up a little bit differently. So again, by trial and error, we're going to use this here a little bit. Have some fun now that we know that we're rocking. Okay, so we know that the DC transformer works. So we'll put that guy away, unplug him. I turn the power off on him so there shouldn't be any issues. We'll remove our DC locomotive, tilt this guy forward, we'll reinstall the wiring here for the NCE system. And this will probably get it cleaned up eventually because this is not exactly pretty, but it works. It does work. Okay. So we'll plug in our flat cord to our NCE system here. I'll go get my oh, here it is. My plug-in for the NCE system. I'll plug that in here. Plug in my throttle. Alright, now we're going to attempt to run this guy. So I couldn't call them up on either setup. So we're going to test the programming track feature on here and see if we can read a decoder. If not, I know that the switch is on there, is flipped the wrong way. Cannot read CV. So I'll flip it the other way here. Oh, might help if I flip this to DCC. Okay, let's try this again. Alright, cool. So now we should be able to call them up. And we have success. So we know that this side is NCE. And this side will be low. And that centered is off. So what I might do is, instead of getting decals, is have my girlfriend, who has beautiful handwriting, just write these on here because it'll be easier to see. Alright. So, now that I know that's hooked up and working, let's try our Loksound Programmer. Get my computer here. Go into ESU Loksound Programmer. Turn that guy over to Lok. And we're going to try reading the decoder data. I know you guys can't see the computer, but trust me, it's up. We're reading the decoder data right now. And we have success. So, I have successfully built a test track where I can operate it with my NCE power cab. I can operate it with my Loksound Programmer with a few simple flips of switches. And now, in another video, I'll update with installing the NCE interface underneath. What I want to do is install this so it's under here, so you don't see it, nothing but a couple of wires. And what I'll have to do is get a couple of like 1/8 or 1/4 inch spacers for the screws to mount underneath, so all this stuff isn't rubbing. So that'll be in the next video. I hope you guys like what I did. I'll take a couple of pictures for you guys so you can kind of see what's going on here. But it's once you've actually done it and thought about it a little bit, it's very simple. If you've never done anything like this, please ask questions. Don't get scared. This is not bad. This is not advanced wiring. You're not going to hurt anything if you take simple precautions, and it's very rewarding. So I'll take some pictures for you guys, and you guys take care. Hey, thanks for watching my video today. I really appreciate all the likes, the subscriptions, the comments, thumbs up, everything you guys do for me. It helps me out, and I like providing what content I can for you. Hopefully it's quality content. Hopefully this can help you in your model railroading. If you guys have any questions or ideas or anything you want to say to me, please feel free to put them down in the comments. I do check them when I can. As far as what you need for this, all you need is your DCC programming systems that you want. You need 2 double pole, double throw switches, preferably on, off, on, and an on, off, on. And then, like by mistake, I had an on, off, on, and an on, on. Not the worst thing. I prefer to have an on, off, on, and have 2 of those. You'll need a small piece of plexiglass. Mine's about 5 by 5 inches. You can do it with 4 by 4, you can do it 4 by 6 and do it tall. It would give you a little bit more space this way. If I did this again, I'd probably put my switches a little bit closer together and make this a little bit taller just so I can see the engine completely behind it. But otherwise I'm very happy. I used 8 screws in total, just some small self-tapping screws that I had on hand. I try to keep those in good supply just because I use them so frequently for anything from mounting hardware to stuff like this, little projects. It's super handy. And I mean, that's it. So I'll throw up a couple pictures and a little bit of rail fanning for you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay cool. That's the one. You can see the PTC inside the engine there.